Welcome to the High Queen podcast.
Prepare to embark on a journey through books you'll fall in love with, as well as the leading ladies who inspire our own stories.
Our friendship blossomed from pageantry to page turners, sparking a desire to show other women that they too can be their own main character.
I'm Miranda,
And I'm Autumn.
and together we'll lead you through books of all genres, from epic fantasy series, romance, all levels of spice, even to autobiographies of real-life heroines.
Now, we are some passionate bitches, so remember, this podcast is rated R and prepare your ears. It's time to celebrate the heroines who redefine what it means to be brave and bold.
So grab your books, beverage, and bestie, and let's crack open our books to page 1 and do a little check-in with each other because this is a doozy of an episode. We got a lot of chapters.
Yeah, so we cut this book in half. Part 1 and part 2. So, 'tis long. Okay, my check-in. Yeah, my check-in shall be apparently full this time. Sometimes it's lackluster, but Pageant Land is lovingly giving me some emotional ulcers.
Yeah.
It's raised my cortisol levels. Ugh. I spend every single weekend in a state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
And some weekends I'm sobbing at 11:45 in my bathroom with tears of joy, and other weekends tears of sadness.
Yeah.
And once we have another, what we like to lovingly call in Pageant Land, Super Saturday. This Saturday, where a lot of different competitions happen in the same weekend. So I will have 3 different devices running competitions that my girls are competing in simultaneously.
Yeah. I saw people that were like flipping. I mean, I was not able to watch any of them, but people were like flipping back and forth. Like one would have a quick pause, and so they'd go to the next one. And
Yep.
the excitement and the energy levels is just high cortisol.
It is. The cat distribution system has found me.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the kitty at some point.
I just got done loving on it. Okay, so long story short, our neighbor had a bunch of cats and she'd feed cats. And I think this is either one of her cats or a cat that just kind of like came and found her and ended up being loved on. But it's so sweet and kind that it makes me think at one point it was probably an inside cat.
Yeah.
And it was just walking around our property constantly every day, like waiting for this woman to come back, and they've moved. They're not coming back. And it started to look skinnier and skinnier. And so my husband decided to feed it, and now we have a cat.
Welcome to the cat club.
I know. It's an outdoor cat. Her name is Tippy because she's missing the tip of one of her ears. And she looks like she's been through a time, okay?
Yeah.
But she's super nice. And this morning we had a new bonding moment. She let me pick her up.
Wow. That's big. That means she trusts you.
And she just let her arms hang.
Yeah.
So there's that. Words I never thought I would say now, along with I have a cat, also that. But also this. I booked a Disney cruise.
That'll be so fun.
We're going in February.
That's going to be so fun.
I'm overjoyed. I'm very excited. I've never been on a cruise before, and I get really motion sick. So what a combo. And we said 7 days.
The big boats though are not bad.
I've heard.
I think you'll be okay. You know all the tips and tricks.
I did my research as one should, and we got middle of the boat, okay, which is supposed to be the least amount of movement. Yeah. So I think we'll be okay. But I'm excited. It'll be fun.
It's gonna be so fun.
I know.
Nora's gonna love it. I love when you guys go to Disney and then post pictures.
We are Disney.
It melts my heart.
I don't think my husband foresaw this coming for himself. But might I just say, he is the one who chose this vacation.
Mm.
I said I would do anything. He said he looked at his options. He said, let's do a Disney cruise. I said, pull my arm, why don't you?
I love when the men do that. I love when you say, what should we do? And then they pick right.
Right? Right? Now
I
you
love
have
that.
been on quite the adventures. Where have you been? Well, I
Well,
know where you've
speaking
been,
of
but tell the listeners.
yes. Speaking of men picking right, my husband and I just got back from our honeymoon slash first anniversary trip to Greece. And that man picked that trip too. I said, I would love to go to Greece, but I would love to go anywhere with you. And he chose to go to Greece. So we went to Athens, saw the Parthenon, which was so incredible. We went to Skopelos, which is an island where they filmed Mamma Mia, which again, I didn't pick. My husband did. So super fun. I missed you guys. It was like 10 days, 2 weeks. You didn't know I was gone, but I knew I was gone. So it was super fun. It was a blast. I got a little something something for Autumn and I, so I'll show you guys that later when I can give it to her in person. Just something little, but yeah, it was incredible. I found some little like local bookstores, which was so fun. It was great. It was a blast. Back to reality though. Classes have started. Here to read the book. It's good though. It's good. Vacation is awesome. It's also good to be back home too.
Yes, your vacation looked wonderful. Every time I'd turn on my Find My People's app, it'd
Yeah,
say Miranda's several thousand miles away
on the ocean. I
in
was like
Greece.
5,000 miles away.
I know. And I just watch where you were at across the world.
Oh, I wanted to shout out too before we move on to now, guys. We know we're in Throne of Glass, but I just picked up a new shirt. I know Autumn picked up a new shirt. So for those of you who are watching, we'll do a little shout out on social media because I want people to know where all of the great little shops are. But I just got a new Spill the Tea embroidered shirt from the Mellow Mug on Instagram. Is that where you got yours?
Yes.
The Mellow Mug, we love you. Okay, well, I'm gonna take a picture of my shirt. You're gonna take a picture of your shirt, and we're gonna post it on Instagram and shout you out because I'm obsessed with her stuff.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's incredibly done.
Like the
I
detailing on my embroidery,
and it's
granted, neither of
small.
what we're showing you is offered anymore.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
Hashtag
okay.
Sarah J. Mass trademarks.
She still has great stuff though.
But she has
Still has
really, really
awesome
nice
stuff.
things. But the detail on my embroidery is so cool. So yes, big fan.
Wait, so we got like free stickers or something if we ordered last chance. What sticker did you get?
I did not get a free sticker. I bought my sticker.
Oh, well, I also bought a sticker, but I felt like when I checked out or something, it said it was free or like 50% off or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I bought a sticker. The equivalent of my sweater.
And I got the equivalent of my shirt. That's awesome.
That's funny. Yeah, so I had bought a lot of things from the shop and I really enjoyed it. It was very exciting.
Mellow Mug, we love you. We're shouting you out. We'll shout you out on Instagram. So check her out. Yes, you can't get these, but you can get some other really awesome stuff. So
Love, love. Okay, well, let's jump into Crown of Midnight.
holy shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Okay, so what stood out big time for me for my initial impressions around these chapters is it really feels like Celaena's fighting her destiny. Like
Oh,
every
yeah.
conversation she has with whether it's with Elena or Nehemia or just like her own inner thoughts or reflecting back in her past, it all feels like she's meant for something bigger and she's just aggressively avoiding everything that's sending her that direction. She wants to think about her books, her beautiful views, dancing under the stars, or like whatever the fuck Chaol is doing.
Hmm. Or
But
whatever
does
the fuck
not.
is in Kale's pants now.
Yeah, okay. But like I get it, relatable. Sometimes it's easier to avoid the things that are hard, especially if you've already had a hard life. She's like, don't stop trying to give me more. Okay, I've done enough.
Yeah.
But But, beneath all of her badassery and her sword skills, like she's just a girl. Okay. She's jealous when other women are looking at Chaol in the gardens. She's carrying Sam's memory like a really deep gash scar on her heart. We get a lot more of him in this book, which
Yes.
it's like I know more, but I don't know enough. But
Yeah.
more. And she is just, I think she's really in for a doozy now. Nehemia, that ending of this chunk was brutal, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like sure, we could have shortened these chapters into something else, but it was good. It was really good. We've got a lot of books to get through, guys. What a cliffhanger. We like to leave on a cliffhanger, and I agree. She is fighting her destiny so hard. Like literally the quote, "It is your fate and your responsibility." Like, ooh, and she's like, "No, it's not. No, it's not. Run away."
Mm-hmm.
Which 18, that's probably a lot. She's been through a lot in her life. I'm so glad that we so quickly and with the first book in a series, a fantasy series, we've got a lot of world building, but we've really dove into the action pretty quickly in this book, which I am so appreciative of. Loved the little bit of romance with Chaol and Celaena. It's very sweet and kind of slow burny until that kiss, and then of course those damned closed door sex scenes, but it's cool, it's fine.
I
I'm just
know.
glad. I'm just so glad though that they finally are admitting those feelings for each other. I'm a little nervous though after that cliffhanger to see where they stand. I think she may have some feelings and some blaming on her new lover. So I'm a little nervous
I
for that.
trusted you. My best friend is dead now.
Yeah.
You didn't warn me.
Yeah. 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 A lot of feelings. A lot of feelings.
Yes.
So
Yes. I'm interested to see where that goes as well. But let's go ahead and dive into this story. Y'all, my summary is basically a recount of what we read because it was a big chunk of book. So
it's
clear your throat,
29 chapters.
shake it out.
It's a lot.
Whew, here we go. Okay. Well, to begin the book, we left off with Celaena becoming the king's champion, and since then, she's completed 4 assignments for the king. His 5th assignment was for her to look into the growing group of rebels within Rifthold. The king will only give her the name of one suspected rebel at a time, and it all begins with Archer Flynn. Made more complicated, she knows this person from her childhood when she was an assassin. Celaena has 1 month to take him out, and the king isn't messing around. We go into Dorian's point of view, where he feels like he doesn't even know Celaena anymore and is sort of avoiding her. Celaena feels like she's seeing the same thing with Chaol, looking at her like she's a creature that they've never met. And when we return to Celaena's point of view, she's going through the sewers and Chaol is following her. He even asks her if she's being the king's champion for herself or if he's just trying to avoid their conversation. And he knows there's a difference, that after all the work he did to separate her as a person from the job, there is a difference between the two of them, but I fear he's having trouble seeing both sides of her. Now, later, Celaena finally lets herself relax enough to feel the exhaustion of all the things that are taking over her body. And, I mean, she's been jumping from one city to the next. She's traveling. Some of these trips took her months to complete. So that kind of tells you how much time has passed, too, between these 2 books. Mm-hmm. And it's now that we learn that Celaena has been wearing a mask. She's spinning lies about the assassinations she's been doing, and everyone believes her. But in reality, she has been giving her targets a choice. Die now or flee far, far, far away and never use your given name again. Why? Well, because she sees the good in those people and doesn't want to advance the king's agenda. She plays it cleverly by taking some of their personal belongings and finding real bodies of corpses from sick houses. And then the question stands, how long will she do this, and how will she do it for Archer too, who is recognizable within Rifthold? And how can she keep this going without risking those that she cares about? Nehemia and Celaena continue to talk about the realities of what is happening in the world around them. Celaena seems avoidant in the conversation, though. She doesn't want to think about the king's plans that could potentially make things worse, nor does she want to consider entertaining Nehemia's ideas of taking action. We find ourselves in Chaol's point of view as he and Celaena run along the grounds in the winter, ice, and snow, and he is still struggling with the weight of his first kill, his desire to be honorable, and trying not to cross a line with Celaena.
Cross the fucking line.
It's really big, okay? Now, while they're out, they run into Dorian. And this is where we meet a new character, his cousin, Lord Roland, who, I don't know, let's say he smiles too much and with too much ease. So
he's a little slimy, a little greasy.
That's what it feels like. So we go between Celaena and Dorian's point of view here, and we see him contemplate the arrival of his cousin, the connection between Celaena and Chaol, and surprisingly, he chooses to visit Celaena to continue their friendship. Now it doesn't go how he wishes, though. Well, at first, she is friendly and inviting, and quickly realizes or believes that the space between them is for the better, and then he offers to fight for her, which I thought was so sweet and sad. Yeah. And then she tells him she just wants him to leave her alone, and he leaves the room. She finds herself feeling suddenly very disgusted with herself and the priorities she's been taking in recently. She heads back into the city to learn more about Archer's whereabouts, and she begins to think about Sam. It starts to peek through a door and finding answers to why he was killed, and she's curious. These thoughts keep racing through her head, but she quickly shuts it out, knowing she's just not mentally ready to go there. She spots Archer, jumps from the rooftops to trail him, and eventually, while heading back to the castle, we have a chill session with Chaol for the night. She goes to hang out with him a lot.
Here we learn sleepovers.
Well, yeah, like unintentional ones, but yes. Now, here we learn about a few characters from Celaena's past. One being Rourke Farren, who she was hired to kill, but it turns out to all be a setup. She ended up being tortured, or she wasn't tortured, sorry. She ended up not getting him, and then he ended up torturing and killing Sam. And then she went to take out her own revenge, but was instead captured. Now, Arobin Hommel's personal servant, Wesley, tried to stop her from going to take that revenge. And then later, he went and killed Farron himself. And then, in turn, he was handed back over and betrayed by Arobin Hommel and killed. Just betrayal all around. Okay?
I'm going to need more. I'm going to need more understanding of what
the circle
there.
Of events. Yeah, it's so chaotic. Yeah. But I guess what we really take away from that is there's a big bad who's no longer a big bad named Rourke Farren, because he did. There's somebody named Wesley who was kind and tried to help her. Now he did too. And who's still
Everybody's
standing?
Dead.
Not Arobin Hommel.
Wait,
Arobin is still there.
Oh,
Arobin,
yes.
No, who's still standing? Arobin Hommel.
Yes,
that's what I meant.
I was like,
I was tacking on to what you said. He's still there. Okay, and seems like there was a lot of chaos happening then. Now, after her conversation with Chaol, she decides to head to the library for some books, even though her entire room is filled with the bookshelves. And books that she hasn't even read yet, but she's like, I want some more.
Girly
Relatable.
We will never judge a girly for wanting another book.
Hey.
Go to your local library, guys. Check it out.
There you go. Now here she discovers a cloaked figure whose face is concealed in darkness that she can't see, and shadows are emanating from it in a cold presence that makes the eye of Celaena around her neck begin to brighten and warm, aka, scary, go away. Now, she gets her ass out of there, okay, ASAP, returns to her room. She's like, peace out, not dealing with that. And it's here that she decides she should probably go back to the tunnels behind the tapestry in her room. And as she comes to Celaena and Gavin's tomb room, she encounters a magical door knocker with a bit of an attitude. Enter Mort.
I'm obsessed with Mort.
I guess like we missed this. I do remember, because I was kind of watching for it, in book 1 it talks about a skull door knocker.
Yeah.
But it's not alive.
But he never says anything. I thought that
anything.
was wild to me. I was like, oh, you just waited till now?
Yeah.
And doesn't he say something along the lines of like, I didn't want to freak you out more, but I'm like, what?
There's a lot going on there. Okay, so yeah, magical door knocker. Here comes Mort. And he has a message for her from Celaena. Quote, if I could leave you in peace, I would. But you have lived your life aware that you'll never escape certain burdens, whether you like it or not. You are bound to the fate of this world as a king's champion. You are now in a position of power, and you can make a difference in the lives of many. Cain and the reminders were just the beginning. Here, there is a far deadlier power poised to devour the world. There will be clues and signs that you must follow. Refusing to kill the king's targets is only the first and smallest step. So, Celaena been watching. She like omnipresent, like she knows what she's doing. Now, even Mort urges Celaena to continue on the path that she's been led, saying you must find out more about the power the king possesses before it's too late. But Celaena is far too in denial to accept this. She's like, I don't want to deal with that shit. I've done enough. Again, denying this destiny that's being pushed on her. She takes some time to reflect on what the door knocker's words were, realizing that there's some truth to it, and even though she doesn't wish to see it, but that she must discover the king's evil. And that doesn't necessarily mean she has to be the one to deal with it, just the one to discover it. Okay.
Oh, Celaena.
And so this is what it takes for her to convince herself to do something. So the next day, she decides it's time to move on with searching for Archer and brings Chaol with her as a piece of arm candy. They encounter Archer, and it leaves her blushing and reliving the past, but also building a connection that should help her to discover more. At the king's dinner later, our three main characters are constantly thinking about one another. We go back and forth between their POVs, okay? Celaena's thinking about how Chaol is a good man and how Dorian could be a great king. And Chaol is thinking about how Celaena turned into a simpering girl in front of Asher, but finds peace and comfort in the fact that she is going to kill him. So it's fine. And then he feels bad about his own thoughts. And Dorian is just jealous of how Celaena looks at Chaol and is frustrated by his own thoughts and reality. We're just all thinking about each other.
Oh, these three, they kill me.
Now, after dinner, Celaena goes to find Dorian and warn him that she doesn't trust his cousin Roland, and the interaction goes less than swimmingly, considering Dorian is already angry and jealous, so it doesn't start from a good spot. Now later, she goes to see Kaltain in her cell. Oh yeah, she's alive, BT dubs, in case you forgot. And this is where she finds her looking far different than she once had in her prime. She's been in the cell for 2 months, rotting away as she's looking into her eyes, she's met with black. Not only is Kaltain in a state of distress, but she has bruises all around her wrist from Duke Parrington taking advantage of her as the guards turn the other cheek. And Caltaine starts to sound a little crazy as she talks about how her headaches have gotten worse and worse, and the crows are flying by with all the flapping wings, and Celaena thinks she's gone mad but finds pity for her, and sitting there in the cold, she decides to give her own cloak before leaving.
I want to say,
Yes.
Caltaine is saying a lot of stuff.
Yes.
We should think back to when another character in another book series was saying a lot of stuff, and we weren't connecting that stuff might be important, aka Elaine and Akawar.
Ay.
So I was like writing down everything Caltaine was saying because I'm like, but feels like Celaena doesn't want to think that it's real and that she's just insane. But perhaps
maybe we should.
Perhaps we should pay attention to what Caltaine is saying.
I don't disagree. I just really noted her eyes were black.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The headaches are. I was like, so you're still being controlled. Poor poor girl. I didn't like Caltaine at the start. I do feel for her now. She didn't choose this. She might not have been that great of a person, but she didn't choose this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's very unfortunate.
Later, Nehemia and Celaena vent to each other and recount some of the old ways of the land. And then we shift to Dorian and Chaol, where they are discussing their families and Celaena's upcoming dinner with Archer, which I don't think either of them are real stoked about. After arguing with Chaol about her safety, Celaena shows up in a very daring dress, my preferred style, real low cut in the front, okay? Seated with the elite of Rifthold, her and Archer go back and forth, trying to break each other's shells. And by the end of the night, he tries to take her to bed. And she puts a knife to his throat. What a combo. Real 1-2 punch, you know? Then he reveals that while he may not be a part of the rebel group, he knows who is, and their goal is to put Aelin Galathinius back on the throne. She's taken aback by this, but ultimately gives Archer her normal victim ultimatum. And she keeps him around for information and accepts an invite to a party to spy with him. Well, her favorite kind of party, I'd say. Now, at the end of the night, she pays a visit back to Chaol. Again, we're going back and forth to his room. She gives him the download from the dinner and he reveals that he's just always worried about her. Not because he thinks that she can't take care of herself, but because he cares for her. And she's kind of like, oh. She's like, doesn't know what to do with herself, which I thought was adorable. Later, at that said party, it's a masquerade, how fitting, Archer helps her sneak into an office where she finds a book filled with word marks and a language that she doesn't recognize. Ding, 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 ding. That stuck out to me. Now, inside, there's a strange phrase. Quote, "It is only with the eye that one can see rightly." She's interrupted by the owner of the house, a man named Davis. And while she's putting on a great performance, that is, I would say, SJM heroine level Oscar worthy, he does not fully buy it. And he ends up slicing her forearm with a blade that is laced in Gloriella. And in turn, she slices right back across his neck. Barely making it back to the castle, she once again returns to Chaol's room. And not only does he care for her, but he agrees not to tell the king, to hide the evidence, to burn her blood-covered dress. And it looks like that straight and narrow path of his is beginning to stray. The next day, she returns to the library to look deeper into what she learned from that strange book in the office, and she decides to take it one step further by searching for the lost library in the catacombs, thinking maybe it's going to be there. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, we're back in Dorian's point of view, like Whiplash style, and he's waking up from a nightmare. It's a frigid cold room, and then bam, we're right back in Celaena's point of view. Is that supposed to mean like happening at the same time?
That's
perhaps.
how I took it. Yeah.
Now, jumping quickly back to her point of view, she's exploring that forgotten part of the castle and finds an iron door. And she asks herself, is that to keep something out or to keep something in?
Hmm.
Suspense, the plot thickens. Later, Celaena is attending dinner with the court, which turns chaotic very quickly. The evening's musical entertainment becomes a battle cry for the oppressed of the land. And it's here that we learn that it's not just the rebel movement that is against the king, but regular, everyday people who still remember the horrible acts from 10 years ago. Nehemia and Celaena are sharing tea as they decompress from the horrible acts from earlier that day. And Nehemia finally gives it to Celaena straight. She says she doesn't know if she can be her friend. How could she be friends with someone with such low moral character who would do unspeakable things for the king, all for her own freedom? Now, she sees her as selfish and unwilling to help a greater cause. And this is what finally breaks Celaena down and allows her to open up with the full truth of everything that's been happening. How she hasn't killed a soul and the king has asked her to. How she goes as far as telling her about Elena's sarcophagus in the tunnels. They go down to the tunnels together, and while they're searching, Celaena finds a clue that she'd never really noticed before. It's a word mark on a wall in the room from the constellation and the stag on the ground, and within that word mark lies an eye. This is about where the clues end, and they decide to leave the tunnels, and Celaena asks Nehemia to teach her more about word marks and how to use them. Nehemia agrees, and they further themselves into a discussion about what the riddle from the book in Davis's office could mean. And Nehemia is like, she has her doubts that it really means anything, and it's probably just a coincidence. But this seems very counterpoint to what Elena was telling us about there not being coincidences and to look for clues. Now, it's time for another ball. Everybody gets a party here, okay? And she's working. She's not allowed to enjoy it. Well, not entirely, because she does manage to sneak out into the shadows to dance. Yay! And Chaol finds her, and she's watching her dance by herself. And to my surprise, at least, he joins her.
You, me, and I would think most people.
How lessons with Nehemia and training sessions with Chaol pass, and eventually Celaena meets with Archer again to give him a reminder of the urgency of the situation. And Dorian also goes to a council meeting where he learns about the expansion of the iron mines near Calcutta and notices that Roland is now wearing a matching black ring. Filled with rage and disgust, Dorian finally stands up to his father. He votes against the expansion, puts them all in their place, and then decides he's got to go let off some steam, where he sees the evidence of something different about him. Magic. Jump scare! We're with Chaol and the king, where the king tells Chaol to watch the princess because she's influencing those in the castle. Dorian. And the king reveals that there is a threat on the princess's life, and he cannot tell anyone. And Chaol agrees, like a good soldier.
Fucking Chaol.
Now, the next day, Dorian has a confusing interaction with Roland that makes us all think about his real intentions. And then Dorian sneaks out to go to a carnival that the queen has thrown to celebrate his brother's birthday. And while he's there, he meets up with Chaol and Celaena, and they see an old woman who's wearing a crown of stars and claims that she can read his future. And they quickly learn that she is an iron teeth witch named Baba Yellowlegs. Celaena is literally terrified by her and all the things that she's heard about her from different legends. As they get back to the castle, Dorian has a surprise for Chaol. Turns out he's getting a pony for his birthday. Not just any pony, an Asterian stallion. And it turns out that Celaena has also planned a little something for his birthday, too. That evening, she tries to go back to the tomb to see if she can navigate any more clues, but comes up empty-handed. In her sleep, she has one of her yearly reoccurring dreams filled with darkness. There's a space she can't seem to cross and a white stag of the north on the other side. It's a dream that she only has once a year, the same night of her parents' death when her world fell apart. She leaves the city for the day, and both Nehemia and Chaol come to her room looking for her, but instead find each other. It's there that Nehemia reveals the horrifying reality of what that day holds for Celaena, further breaking down Chaol's understanding of his reality and allegiances. We go back in time for a moment inside Celaena's memories to relive the day that she snapped in Endovier. And then we see present day as she returns to her rooms and finds Chaol waiting for her. They almost cross the line between friendship and lovers right up until Celaena looks him in the eye and says that she's not sure if she should feel ashamed for wanting him or grateful to have him there. Nothing like a cold bucket of water with shame to drench you in. Dorian is busy searching for answers about his potential magic and heritage, and it's here that we get a little bit more information. He is a descendant of Gavin and Elena, something you already clocked through his name, Miranda. Good job. But his line possesses very little magic. And then there's the Galathinius line, a powerhouse line. It turns out that Dorian had met that lost princess long, long ago. And he gets emotional thinking about his friend's relationship, and his own magic suddenly bursts out of him. And then he remembers that perhaps that witch at the carnival could help him. Celaena and Chaol prepare for their birthday dinner, and she surprises him with a private, intimate dinner that kind of shakes him to his core. Now he knows how much she cares, and it breaks down the hesitancy he still had in his heart. And as they get closer, she decides to tell him the truth of her killings. Naturally, this revelation also shakes him to his core, but mostly out of the fear that the king will kill her for her betrayal. She reveals her plan to bargain with the king for a shorter contract so that she can go somewhere far, far away. And it's that truth that she wants to leave that starts to soften him. So much so that he says that he will go with her when it's time to escape. And finally, they kiss, and she thinks that it feels like coming home, like being reborn, like finding half of herself that was missing. And then later in her room, she gives him, quote, everything she had. They agree to keep their love affair a secret, not out of shame, but concern for the king's reaction. And they both agree not to tell Dorian, because that'll go well. Speaking of Dorian, he made it all the way to Baba Yellowlegs, who tells him that it's not possible for there to be an exception to the rule for someone to have magic, but that if there was, she'd suggest first starting by looking into what made magic disappear in the first place. Celaena is back to spying on the potential rebel group and sees all of them on her list, including their families, getting on boats to leave the land. And who's behind it? Archer, of course. Other updates. The king wants to see Chaol. Nehemia has been asked to speak to the rebels. And closet sex is kind of hot. Bar that door with a broom. All right. Nehemia is shook by the struggle she is facing, and once again calls out Celaena, for not agreeing to the promise of helping free her country. I mean, what an ask, though, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of a big one. Hey, BT Dubs, King's Champion, can you make sure my country stays free? Your country?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that I get what she's asking, but I'm also like, girl, she is one girl.
What? Huh? Now, within asking her this, she then asks Celaena, well, if you're not going to agree to that, what will you fall for, if not that?
Mm.
And she urges her with what she knows and has seen with the sound of wings in her dreams. Oh, two people who have been hearing wings.
And didn't Chaol hear wings in one of his, or Dorian in one of his dreams?
Dorian. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Chaol, but Dorian.
Just wrong guy.
Now, Nehemia hits her with a blow. I thought that I could count on you when the time came. I didn't realize you were only doing it to keep your own conscience clean. I didn't realize you were a coward. Oof. Famous last words, huh? Unexpectedly, we cut to a conversation with Queen Elena, but it's not Celaena who she's speaking to this time. It's Princess Nehemia. They say that one of them has to break or it will never begin. Nehemia said the prince isn't ready, so it has to be her. Elena is asking something of Nehemia, and she says she understands, but that when she, assuming it's Celaena, goes over the edge, there will be no one to bring her back. Elena says that she will find her way back. She always does. The most cryptic conversation of this entire half of the book. Let's revisit this later. Now, Chaol is hunting with the king's party, and the king reveals that Nehemia is being questioned tomorrow night, and no one is to know about it. Later, Chaol is going on about his day, dreaming of marrying Celaena, and then a hand goes over his mouth and the world goes black. The next morning, Celaena finds a note next to his sword that says, "We have the captain. When you're done stalking us, come find him here." And for the second time in her life, the man that she loves has been taken in retaliation towards her. Chaol comes to in a warehouse, pondering why he's even there and assuming it's for ransom for the king, and then overhearing some conversations of his captors, realizes that the only she that would even care to come save him is the one person he doesn't want in harm's way. As Celaena is on the way to save him, and we see a new side of her, that true Otterland's assassin side that she's really been known for. Cunning, focused, calm, and deadly. As she crashes through the windows and begins to disperse her destruction, Chaol notices that there is no mercy in her eyes. An older man begs for the killing to stop and says there's a misunderstanding. And suddenly Archer is in front of her, protecting her by taking an arrow in his shoulder and then turning around to protect the guards and the men in the warehouse from her. And with one sentence, he convinces her to drop her guard. Quote, "I have been working with Nehemia to lead these people for the past 6 months." Archer gives Celaena the breakdown of Nehemia's involvement with him, and then throws Chaol under the bus, revealing that he knew about this threat on her life weeks ago. And the king told him. And the rebel group that Chaol, this rebel group thought that Chaol would be doing the questioning. And it's only moments before Celaena arrived that they learned that it was instead the king. And they reveal that the king is not going to question her. And they just apologize and say, "I'm sorry." Celaena races back to the castle, but it's too late. Nehemia is dead. Whew. That's quite the first chunk of a book.
Yes, lots to get through.
Yes, thank you all for sticking with me.
We're going to do a
Shall
little bit
we,
of world building.
Yeah, let's build this world. Woo!
So not a lot of addition to our map, but just a few little things. So I don't remember if either of these were mentioned in the last book, so we'll just mention them here quickly. We've got Wendelin, which is another wealthy kingdom slash continent that's across the sea. So we hear a little
Mhm.
bit about them. I think it's mentioned that like they had asked them to maybe support like Terrason in the war, and they've never come to anybody's aid over here.
Mhm.
Um, Maya or Mia, you would know.
Miha.
Miha is a small but prosperous coastal town in Otterland. It doesn't have a standing army, and it is ruled over by the king's cousin, and that is, of course, where Lord Roland is from Miha. And then Terrason, it was attacked first by the king because it was thought that if they had time to raise an army against him, they would have defeated the king of Otterland. And Nehemia's father believes that if Terrason rose again, that it would be a genuine threat to Otterland. So part of
Mhm.
the reason then that they're creating this rebel group that wants to uplift somebody. So speaking of the threat to Otterland, this rebel group that's growing in Rifthold against the king is hoping to reinstate the heir of Terrason to the throne, who's Aelin Galathinius. Celaena thinks in her mind, she goes, well, that person's an imposter. The real Aelin is dead. But there is a rumor that Aelin, quote unquote, is looking to reestablish her court and raise an army against the king. And this rebel group, as we heard, is being led by Nehemia, and Archer is the one who's kind of helping her with it in Rifthold. Kind of in all of the same, vein of stuff. We talk about the Eye of Elena having like a tiny blue gem in the middle that kind of glows and warms when Celaena encounters something shrouded in darkness. I just made me think of like a siphon or an invoking stone, if you will,
Mm.
from one of our other universes. Where we talk about that iron, that's within another passageway. That's the one that she found within the library. So remember, we're finding some more pieces of the castle that lead to unknown spaces for other people. This one had carvings along the wall. So there's a battle at first, then we move into a forest carved into the wall that has Fae in it. And she can smell that iron sort of wafting up from the descending stairwell as she's passing those Fae carvings, which is very interesting. And as she's looking at this iron door, trying to decide, how do I get in, or do I want to get in? Do I not? Is there something in there that I shouldn't let out? She does let us in on a little bit of interesting knowledge that iron is the one element that's immune to magic, which like makes sense, right? From our understanding of iron from another universe as well. But
Mhm.
iron is immune to magic. And I think you had written down one of the notes about iron in magical people's blood.
Yeah, so it says the strongest magic wielders that the iron in their blood starts to build up if their magic is not released, which can cause fainting spells or death. And this made me think of Rhysand and
Mm-hmm.
Amberyn, and then teaching Feyre like how you have to like disperse little spurts of your magic in order
Mm-hmm.
to not combust.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought the same thing.
It's pretty cool.
Okay. Some other little bits of world building. Speaking of magic, something I thought that was really interesting is there are a lot of people dying in Otterland and across their continent from these once curable diseases. Felt
Mm.
very on the nose for the world that we currently live in. Um, because we have to
Funny, I wrote
remember,
down the
though,
same thing. I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh.
unfortunate. Unfortunate. But we have to remember, though, that people are dying from these diseases because they no longer have the magic and the knowledge to cure them because all of the healers who had the magic and the knowledge were killed.
Yeah.
So, very unfortunate. Which leads me to believe probably a lot of the people who are dying are the slaves, the poor, the lesser in the continent, unfortunately. Magic in the Haviliard bloodline. It's been there for generations, although it's been dormant for generations until now. So
Yay!
now Baba Yellowlegs says that magic is gone, that even the Fae can't access it, and that some Fae are trapped in their animal forms. And she adds that, magic is gone from here, but it's rumored to only be gone from this continent and not necessarily from others. So maybe like Wendelin could still have magic. Perhaps
Hmm.
that's why they haven't come to the aid of anyone here. They don't want to lose their magic. But Mort, I believe it's Mort. I'm going to scroll for just a second, guys. That I made a note. He says, while new magic doesn't exist, it's not here right now. The king cannot erase old spells and older powers like the word marks. Ancient spells still hold. So word marks are a thing, and there's still some maybe ancient magic, which I then think
Hmm.
of maybe the powers that Chaol is, or that Dorian, excuse me, they're meshed in my brain. The powers that Dorian is showing maybe give me a little bit of elemental magic vibes, a little bit.
Something like that.
So perhaps
Yeah.
that form of magic is not gone. So who knows? We have a new race. I'm going to let you tell us how we say it.
Volg.
Vogue. So the Vogue are demons who stole Fey people to breed with them, and that's what made the witches. So there are it's like good witches and bad witches, from my understanding. The good witches are the
Yes.
ones that lean more heavily into their Fey side, where the bad witches, like Baba Yellowlegs with the iron creepy teeth, those are the ones that lean more to their Vogue demony side.
Yeah.
So, a new race. And then I wanted to mention just a little bit of random, like Elena Gavin lore that stuck out to me, because we don't see Elena again really in these chapters. So there's not really anywhere else to put this. But Mort tells us that she sort of burnt herself out helping Celaena and has to
Hmm.
regain her strength before she can come back. But then she meets with Nehemia. So I thought that was really interesting. Like maybe she's just staying away for now and letting Mort do the talking.
Perhaps. Or maybe she's just got enough
Um,
power to come back. I mean, but yeah.
for sure. Who knows? It probably is not that. It's just me pulling at strings. But Gavin, we get just this little moment about him when he when he would wield Damaris, his sword, he would quote only see the truth. And the truth piece really stuck out to me. With more and the power of truth, and like, what does that mean? What does the power
Azrael's
of truth
dagger,
mean?
truth
Yeah.
teller.
Yes. So that idea of truth and like wielding a weapon and only seeing truth
Hmm.
was really curious. So I felt like that
Concur.
needed to be somewhere.
Concur. Yes, yes. So many different things. Now, I have a couple things to just bloop put in there for world building. You covered so many of them, which is awesome. That under places category, you covered all my places, but I had written down the king had enslaved an entire continent, but there were other continents with wealthy kings. And it does say that plural. So we know about Wendlin, another which is on
Mhm.
another continent with a king, but maybe there's more. Just very interesting. I love a growing map. Okay. And then I wrote down some phrases just to keep track because there's a lot of them here. We have time's rift. And then we have it is only with the eye that one can see rightly. And then this is another one. Some things you hear with your ears, some things you hear with your heart. Now, that one wasn't necessarily a clue, but more so just a phrase that Nehemia had said that I thought was very interesting. So I wrote down those three as perhaps ones that we should pay attention to until we figure out what the fuck they mean.
I love how poetic the eye and the hearing one is. And then you've got,
Hmm.
time's rift.
Yeah,
I'm going to be so
which
excited to know what the fuck that means.
same. Now, I do think there's some interesting things here that we do already know or can assume to put together. Everything we just learned in Akatar about time and the harp. It's a harp. And jumping and I think all of that can maybe play into it. And Rift, we're in Rift Hold. I don't know. Maybe some thoughts there. But my other thought is, where is Elena? Like, where is she at when she's not there? She's in another world. She's just crossing worlds. I mean, on Sam Hewen, the day that the veil between worlds is the thinnest, she's able to come through. Is she existing somewhere else after death? Another plane of existence? Another time? Is this reincarnation? I don't know. I have lots of thoughts on that. And then the other thing I wrote down was magic types, just because I loved what they were dropping here. It's believed to have magic is believed to have originated from the gods themselves. There's different types of magic: the kind to heal, shapeshift, summon the elements, see the future, encourage the growth of crops and plants. And then it says magic has been diluted through the generations, and strong magic wielders are rare. Next, I wrote down a whole lot about these witches. So, for our witches, this particular one we see has razor sharp teeth. Baba Yellowleg says she's the last born witch of the Witch Kingdom, over 500 years old. But then I think it's Dorian that points out, like, maybe she's lying. Maybe she's not actually the last born witch if she's actually that old. And then it says that witches are blessed with long lifespans in relation to the Fae and the Volg. There are 3 Iron Teeth clans that take after the Volg. And then you said, like, the good witches, the Kraken witches that take after the Fae. And 500 years ago, the Witch Kingdom fell when the bloodthirsty Iron Teeth witches overthrew the peaceful Kraken Kingdom and then ripped apart the kingdom stone by stone. And the last Kraken queen cast a spell so that as long as the Iron Teeth banners flew, no soil, would yield life to them. And then and there's a legend that Celaena heard that they can eat kids whole. So that's nice and lovely.
Rightfully so that Celaena's terrified of Baba Yellowlegs. I think for more reason than just being eaten alive.
Yeah. But this was my last little tidbit, just because it gives us a little bit about Celaena's backstory, which is always fun. The Asterian horses, considered extremely valuable and difficult to attain. The mares are more valuable than the stallions. Dorian gives one to Chaol, a stallion, that is, for his birthday. And Celaena apparently had one a long time ago named Casita, which is the drinker of wind in the dialect of the Red Desert. So, speaking of Celaena, let's dive in.
Yes. So we broke her apart a little bit this week, starting with Assassin Celaena, because we get so much of her in this role. It's like fun and scary to see at the same time. And I loved this quote right at the start: silent and smooth as a wraith.
Yes, Dorian describes her as not herself, a beautiful wraith. Wraith is such an interesting word to use for that.
I know. And we get it a couple of times, calling her, like a wraith, which is, just an interesting descriptor for her. But I liked it. As the assassin, as the king's champion, there are few people who outrank her in the king's court, which I thought that was interesting, that in that position, she's so high up, I guess, technically. I would have not anticipated that, I guess, that she would outrank so many people. You had mentioned this earlier in the summary, but talking about the mixing of the truth and the lies, and giving people this choice. Do you want to flee and fake your death, or do you want me to kill you? And I love that up until, the point of Davis, really, she hadn't killed anybody. They'd all chosen to flee. She hadn't had to do that. And then she's still finding a way to kind of, trick the king a little bit. And I think that really lends to like the morally gray part of this character. She's willing to kill people, right? Especially if she has to, but she's also willing to see the good in people, and she's seeing the good in these people that the king wants dead. So she's not willing to just blindly kill them. And I love that she's not blindly doing what she has to do to find her freedom.
Yeah, we really get a lot of times where she gives us a view into how she feels about her role. She says that she forces herself to smirk and put a twinkle in her eye at the thought of hunting and killing someone new, and forces herself to hide emotions of shock and disgust in front of the king. And even after all this time of being an assassin, you can tell it just doesn't sit quite right with her. And you had mentioned, where she got the bodies from the corpses. Can we just take a second to visualize the fact that she is like giving these people the choice to flee, and then she goes to a sick house, finds a body, cuts its head off, puts it. Oh my God. She must have,
It's a lot.
I know what I'm saying here, a stomach of iron. Okay? Like, to handle that, ugh. So nasty.
She says this quote, "I will not be his butcher, the king's butcher." And I think that's so true. Like you can tell that being an assassin doesn't quite sit with her well. And I think we can continue to like see that a little bit more when she just wants to be a normal girl. Like we hear that a few times in these chapters of, maybe Chaol and I could just be normal someday. Someday I can go off and just live a normal life. It's a means to an end for her.
Yeah.
It's not something she wants to do. It's something she's really good at, but it's not something she wants to do. It's not something that she is willing to just, blindly do. I thought that "I will not be his butcher" was a really beautiful representation, I think, of how she feels about this position that she's in.
I agree.
Some general Celaena. Speaking of this girl who just kind of wants to be normal, right? Multifaceted woman. She uses her money from the king to buy clothes and shoes and jewelry and weapons and sweets and so many books that she requires that additional bookcase to be brought to her room. And I'm so glad that that piece of her is shining and she's not losing it or like tucking it away. That she's allowing that piece of her that wants the finer things to come out.
Yeah. I think that at her core, she really is a dreamer. At that masquerade ball, she has a moment where she takes time to look at all the expensive olive windows and doors and thinks how lovely it must be to just dance along the riverbank under the stars and the city lights. And she's so dynamic in how she could be jumping off roofs in 1 minute and then questioning the next second, like, why am I so easy to cry? Like, I'm such a badass. I'm such a girl who just loves chocolate cake.
And that's what it means to be a woman, right? Like, I think Celena's a great way for us to like look at who is a woman, right? You can be a badass, but you can also, cry easily and that's okay. Like you can feel your emotions, you can want the chocolate cake, you can want the finer things, but you can also be a badass who can do all the things and break the glass ceiling and whatever, literally and figuratively if you're Celaena. but I think that's actually just a really great visual of that, of what it means to be a woman and to have all of these different like pieces of and just be a human in general, right? Like we can think of men in that same way. Oh, men can't be emotional. Well, yes, you can. That's part of being a human, is having all of these different elements that make up who we are.
Absolutely.
That Eye of Elena necklace. So she hasn't seen Elena for quite a while. She hasn't talked to her. She's only talking to Mort. But Mort tells her, this message. You will never escape certain burdens. Whether you like it or not, you are bound to the fate of this world. Whew, what a little prophecy.
Those are some bound to the fate. Oof. Like Mort clearly knows about Celaena's past too, by the way. Because Elena clearly knows about Celaena's past and like given him the download. But his words to her after bringing up her parents' death were really pointed. Hear that selfish, that cowardly. If we're all out here calling her a coward. Okay.
I know, calling her a coward by multiple people in this book.
Why did you come down here tonight? To help us all or to help yourself? He says this as if he's surprised. Like, he expected her to be something different based on what he was told about her.
which feels very similar then to that argument between Nehemia and Celaena.
Hmm.
A little pointed, calling her cowardly. I thought you would do something different. So does Nehemia know Celaena's background because of Elena?
She does. What? Yeah, she has to have. Elena
Yeah.
has to have given her the download. We already know they're talking in private. And Nehemia knows about her parents' death when she's talking to Chaol. And I thought, was that a slip of the tongue? Like,
Yeah.
you said it with
I
intention, but I don't remember Celaena ever telling you about that.
yeah, Celaena did not tell. And why would Nehemia know that information? There's literally no way that like anybody would know that
Right.
without
So
her telling
Elena's
them.
been given downloads.
Yeah. Unless like Archer knows or something, but I can't imagine any of the Assassin's Guild people really have that information. So,
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know about that. But I just think Elena is really like pushing this verbiage. Like the two people, more it's not a people, but you know what I mean. The two individuals that are being given information about Celaena and her past from Elena, who just knows her and is omnipresent in her life, apparently, also are the two people who call her a coward. Is that on purpose?
mm-hmm.
Be- Sorry. Wow. At some point, we need to go talk about that conversation with Nehemia and Elena. And I don't know if now is the time or later.
Yeah, I this the one page, the like one page conversation, which I am actually so glad that you're saying it was Elena and Nehemia because it's not outright said, right? But
Oh,
like,
I know because of the audio.
and that's what I assumed, but it is not said. So if
Yeah.
you are not listening and you are just reading like I am, I think you can read between the lines of like knowing who that is, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
Nehemians and Elena speaking, but it does not say it. So if you're not like picking up on that, that could leave you incredibly
Confused.
confused as to
Yeah,
like who
I
the
knew
fuck is speaking
because
right now.
there's a dialect to Nehemia's voice when you listen to the audiobook,
For
so you
sure.
know who's talking.
And it took me a second because when it said the queen, like we have not really met the queen, like Dorian's mother, but I
Mm-hmm.
had to take a
Mm-hmm.
second because I read Queen and Princess and I'm like, wait, Dorian doesn't have a sibling. I had to start that like one page chapter over and go, no, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
this is Elena and Nehemia because it's not point blank said. So if anybody else was momentarily
Yeah.
confused, know that you're not alone in that.
I think the writing of that is kind of interesting too because I think it's meant to take you aback. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
wait, what?
Absolutely.
Why are these two chatting? You know each
Right.
other?
And how long? How long have you been chatting? How long have you known about the tube,
How
Nehemia?
long have
How
you?
did you get
Mm-hmm.
there? So many questions.
Yep. Is that actually the first time you've been there?
Is that the
You've
first time
been to
you've met
Selena's
Mort?
room to put word marks in there a bunch.
Well, and interesting too, like when Celaena goes to tell Nehemia about like the passageway, and before she even says anything, she just looks to the tapestry. And Nehemia's like, oh, that's Elena. Like, why would you know that?
Well, she does have a university. Maybe they have a good sense of history there in her land. But nonetheless, I agree. Super sus. Um, when we're talking about Nehemia and Celaena and this cowardly comment and all this destiny talk, and I go back to that conversation, and I think it's so interesting because they bring Dorian into it. The prince isn't ready. So it has to be her. It has to be Celaena. To do what? Who, what? And then she tells Nehemia, "You have to go. Are you prepared for what you have to do?" Yes. Celaena will find her way back. She always does. Okay. Well,
Nehemia knew she was dying. I mean, I knew she was dying. I knew that was coming, but we can talk about that when we get to Nehemia.
That's what I mean. This whole conversation is wild, but it again points to this idea of a lot of people know about Celaena, and I don't think she knows that they do. So I don't know. Between the king's plans, Nehemia's talk of rebellion, we got this shadowy figure. She's very in denial of what is clearly happening around her and doesn't want to do anything about it. But unfortunately, like closing your eyes doesn't change reality, you know?
Nope. Doesn't in a fantasy world, doesn't in the real world.
Yes. Now, speaking of reality, we got this rebel movement going on, the things she's supposed to be keeping track of. And then they mention this lost princess, and she is just like taken aback. She says she shoved down her hope until an ageless fear blanketed it again. And she's so caught off guard by this conversation about the lost princess of her own land where she came from that I just she's not usually surprised by much or caught off guard that often. So I found that to be odd. Just a thought. You already have been guessing she's royalty, so it's not like I'm throwing something crazy out there. You've been throwing out your theories.
I have a theory. I'm going to drop it later. I'm going to so keep listening, everybody. I'm going to drop it at the end. I have a theory. I have a theory. So, we're reminded that it's been a year and a half since she went to Endovier, since she went to the slave camp, and a year and a half since she lost Sam. Because again, yeah, we get a lot of Sam in this book, and talking about this like idea of her like shoving things down and not wanting to cover her eyes, not like open up some of these things within her. She says, quote, and somewhere in this city were the answers to how it had all happened. If she dared to look, she knew she'd find them, and she knew it would destroy her again. The trauma within this girl for so many facets of her life, losing Sam, losing her parents, all of these little elements. It scares me a little bit, this idea that like all of these things are going to destroy her. What does that mean? Destroy her in the fact that like Elena is telling Nehemia that she'll come back and she'll be ready for whatever this fate and prophecy is, or it will shut her down. So I'm curious, this, she knew it would destroy her again element. And then we learn a little bit later what she did in Endovier. We get we get the backstory to her getting to the wall, or 4 inches from the wall.
Yeah.
And killing the guards, and she broke because it was the day of her parents' death. I don't know. I'm super curious to see how those play into her, and the way she reacts when they take Chaol and kill it. She's like not gonna stop. She's gonna murder everybody in that building.
Yeah. So. I mean, I really enjoyed the Endovier section.
Yeah.
It
was nice to have.
I nice is a choice of words there. I was going to say the same thing. It was so nice to see how she snapped up. But it was fulfilling as a reader to finally be able to be in her head in that moment when you could just hear about it again and again. And the way it's explained through other people's perspectives, you'd think she was just like a ball of rage being released in that moment and chaos. But when you're in her head, it's calm. It's vengeful, but it's calm. Like everything was done with a purpose and intention, which I think is really interesting. Like the way she like specifically was like, no, you get the axe. I know what you did 2 months ago. You're getting an axe in the face. Everything's done with intention. And mind you, I'm sure in the moment, this is all happening within milliseconds.
Yeah. Eloquently put. Nice to read. Fulfilling to read. Good to have. General Elena, oh, this moment, I heard the music and I just wanted to dance for a few minutes to just
Mm,
forget everything for one waltz and pretend to be a normal girl. Ugh,
mm,
she just wants so deeply to not have to deal with the world, which I
yeah.
think we can all relate to sometimes. She just
Yes.
wants to enjoy the pretty little things. She wants to read her books and listen to her music and go off with Chaol and do whatever and not deal with the world. And her just taking that moment to dance with herself even before Chaol even comes and swoops in for a dance, to just dance with herself, to not care.
Yeah.
It's I appreciate that she got that moment. I don't think she's gonna have too many of them moving forward.
Yeah, probably not. That's a first half of a book kind of thing. But speaking of music, you said I heard the music. Speaking of music, there's that song that's performed for the king in their court. It's taken from a poem and then performed in the form of of music, and she remembers it from her childhood, which I thought was really interesting. And given that it's all about Fae, and she comes from a land where there's Fae heritage just through all the people there, and it sound like the song itself reminded me of Elena and Gavin. It's just what I kept thinking about. Like he was a king and or a knight, and yeah, just that's
Mm-hmm.
those were my thoughts there.
Yeah. Speaking of Elena a little bit, so that dream that Celaena
Mm,
has on that 10th anniversary of her parents' death. She dreams of white stag, which I think we're understanding is, it's the like the sigil of Terrasen. It's
hmm.
this representation of this place. So that she dreams of this white stag with ancient eyes that's beckoning to her across a dark chasm. The dark chasm is the parts of her, I think, that she shuts out. And so once she
Mm,
opens herself up to them and embraces her past, I think she'll be able to connect with that stag. And I think that is her connection then to Elena, who perhaps is a distant relative, to maybe some magic within Celaena's self. Like I think this dream, this disconnect is what she shuts out from the last 10 years of her life. And once she opens that up and allows that darkness to kind of dissipate, she'll be able to reach the stag and maybe reach a part of herself that she's been unwilling to connect with for 10 years.
yeah, I could see that easily.
Romantic Selena, the fun stuff.
Romantic Selena. Well, kind of fun.
Okay.
We're gonna start on a sad note, but kind of fun.
Yes. Yeah. So all of her different men in her life, right? So starting with Sam, because I feel like we need to touch on him a little bit more. He can't really be his own character because we don't really know much about him, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, but this quote, I failed him in every way that counted. I failed him. Mm, made me think of Arnesta. But we learn that they were hired to kill this crime lord, and some things went bad, and it was a setup, and Sam died, and then Celaena was ultimately captured, and again, I think that that's part of what she's pushing down within herself. But that feeling of I failed him in every way that counted, I failed him, and it's like maybe that's not true. Maybe you couldn't
Mm,
have done anything.
yeah. I mean, Sam, she says Sam loved her more than anyone had loved her, enough to risk everything, to give up everything. He loved her so much that she still felt the echoes of it, even now.
Mm.
I loved that line. It was such a
I can't
sad line, but it's so
imagine.
beautiful. The echoes.
Hmm. And the love that they clearly had for each other, that she still, I mean, she'll always have for him. But then thinking of, she found him days after he'd been murdered. She wakes up in her parents' bed. They are murdered. Like, oh my God. the people that, I mean, I hear, I'm going to take a liberty, guys, because not everybody loves their parents, I guess. Some people have rough relationships, but
Mm.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say she loved her parents. She
Yeah.
was willing to crawl into their bed, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
sleep with them. The probably potentially maybe the only three people she has ever loved have now been not just taken from her, but brutally murdered. And
For
then
her to
she has to
find.
find their bodies.
That's rough.
Oh,
That's
I
rough.
got it. I'm surprised she's even willing to be with Chaol at all. And to know
Yeah.
later that Chaol was her first and the only other person that she'd considered going to that extent with was Sam, but she said she missed the opportunity. She waited too long and then he died. Like I would have totally been understandable if she would have kind of just shut herself out from love forever. I'm
Mhm.
surprised she's so open to love.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. The surprise element, especially when it's only been a year.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Hmm.
and we'll get into Kale more. I put him last because, they're kind of together. But she says a lot of like feeling like maybe they were meant to be and fate and all of these things. And we can think back to like Feyre and Rhysand, right? And
Yeah.
Feyre leaving Tamlin and I guess if you find your person and when you find your person, does the time matter? Who knows?
Not necessarily.
It's different for everyone, you know.
Yep.
And it's what you are comfortable and willing and open to. And we've had that conversation before. So you guys know how we feel about it. But romantic Celaena, just throwing a little bit of Archer in here really quickly. We'll kind of touch on him more later. But she once had a crush on him, thinks he's a beautiful man. He has a little pet name for her. He calls her Lena. And
Mm.
she still thinks that he's the most beautiful man that she'd ever seen. Like he makes her blush, but she tells Chaol later, like it doesn't mean anything. Like, yeah, he's just a pretty guy. But I'm not crushing on him
That's
now.
it. I'm
So
still gonna kill him. Wink, wink.
yeah, well, nudge, nudge, maybe. God, she might want to still kill him now. She might actually want to kill him now.
Oh.
Super curious to see what happens there too. He Archer's an interesting character. Dorian, Dorian and Celaena not romantically involved anymore, but it's still a relationship and there's still some feelings there, especially at the start of the book. But she
Hmm.
really just misses Dorian as a friend. She
I
really just wants
know.
her friend.
I was glad to see them trying to be friendly throughout the book.
Yeah.
Like they go back and forth. One pushes one away, the other pushes the other away, but they're trying.
Yeah, they are. And like I said, there's those lingering feelings at the start, right? Like we're only a couple of months past the time that they spent together and their breakup. And Celaena, there are moments when she thinks I would shatter a window seeing other women with Dorian, but it wouldn't be fair to let him know that. And then a little bit later, some more time goes on. She grows a little closer to Chaol and she thinks, but this distance between them, this horrible gap that spread every day, it was for the best. And again, she wants that friend,
Hmm.
but knowing that distance is at least probably she's thinking helping him get over their relationship, she can live with it, at least for now.
Yeah. Going back to that song that was performed for the king, they're all listening to it and they each kind of have their own perspectives of their interpretation of the song. And Dorian has his because he's thinking how he thinks about Celaena in the place of the girl in the story and how she needs a knight. And Dorian says, yeah, he sees that. He sees that that's what she needs.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't
And he
need the
needs
king.
it too. Yeah. He
Mm-hmm.
thinks that too. She needs the knight, but I also need to find my person in the story.
Yeah.
And I was
Which,
really
good for
appreciative
him.
of that moment. Yeah. Yeah. It was a good moment to have. All right, Kale. Oh, Kale. I
Kyle.
was so glad we get so much more Kale in this book.
Kyle.
Neither did
Kale, who
Kale.
my
No Kale at
autocorrect
all.
wants to name Kayla.
I did see that. I did calculate that. You also had Brewhemia at one point.
I didn't do that, okay?
I know you don't
I
type it.
just
Doesn't mean
voice
I can't laugh.
text. It's so annoying. It spells Dorian just fine. Most of the time, it spells Nehemia just fine. But it can't spell kale. At this point, I wish it would just type Kale.
Kale.
Why is it putting Kayla?
Yeah.
I don't anyways. Kale.
Maybe you need to eat more kale. Look up more kale on your phone. Oh, the slow burn this first half of the book with these two is so good. I'm so sad now to see what happens. But like at the very beginning, we went through so much book, guys. We have to kind of go back and talk about some of the things that are maybe no longer relevant. But right at the start, and as she held him now, the craving for it never stopped roaring through her. And she's talking about her first hug with Kale since she won the championship. If you remember back, they're hugging in her room, and then, Dorian comes in and whatever, but they're hugging again. And she's like smelling him, and she's just like, wow, this could never stop, and I'd be okay with that.
I mean, sometimes an embrace can be just as passionate and intimate. I mean, maybe not as like passionate as penetration, but it can be really, really lovely. Especially if you're someone who has spent the last year not having any form of physical affection, really. There's that moment with Dorian, but like, she spent a year in a prison camp. So a hug can feel like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that hug and then this next moment really show her trust that she's now built with Kale.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she's drugged by that Gloriella, she knew we're in her head. She knew she needed to get somewhere safe. Where did she go? She went to Kale. That was her safe space. She could have gone to Nehemia, who once upon a time saved her life. She could have gone to Dorian. I'm sure he would have been there for her too. But she goes to Kale, knows that that's where she can go and she will be okay.
Yeah, yeah. And she trusts him so much. She's always turning to him. But she's also clearly jealous because they go on these walks and all these other women are looking at Kale and all the girls are gushing over him and dressing in their finery. I love this. They're getting up before dawn just to catch a glimpse of him. And of course, like any boy, he is completely oblivious.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course.
Dorian sees it. He's like, oh, they're all here for me. Oh, no, it's for you, Captain of the Guard. And Kale's like, what? What? Huh?
Me? Not me. Uh, we love it. We love it. We've talked a little bit about, the poem and the song that were played by the harpist and the violinist. And I want to read this chunk. I'm sorry, guys. It's just so good.
It's so good.
Quote, Rena went on, spinning the ageless story of the years that the Fey woman served those kings and lords, and the loneliness that consumed her bit by bit. Celaena, anybody? Anyway. And then one day, a knight came, seeking her power on behalf of his king, Chaol. As they traveled to his kingdom, his fear turned to love, and he saw her not for the power she wielded, but for the woman beneath. It was the knight's gift of seeing her for who she was, not what she was, that won her heart. And then Celaena begins to tear up, and Chaol looks at her and he just grabs her hand. And Celaena thinks. So Celaena looked at her captain of the guard and smiled back. And then we get this other moment. Quote, the rest of the world quieted into nothing. In that moment, after 10 long years, Celaena looked at Chaol and realized she was home. Whoa. What a realization. What a moment. Not just how she feels about Chaol romantically, but on a much deeper level, I think that trust and the comfort he provides her one apparently that even Sam did not. And this is what I briefly touched on before, guys, of this like fate, connection, home that both of them kind of talk about in these chapters, this feeling of being they were meant to be almost. It's fun to read. I like it.
Yeah. I didn't have anywhere else to put this, so I wanted to put it here, but just a small note on that song because I loved this line that they give. Perhaps there is an unstoppable magic inherent in music and art. As a former music teacher and just a general lover of arts and human creativity, I love that the way it helps us connect and really I felt the power of this line. So much of our world feels divided, but music is what helps us unite. And I felt this happen too in this moment. Like, would Celaena and Chaol have had that moment to hold hands and to see themselves reflected in that song and push forward if they hadn't kind of been in that room at that time, right? And it does unite them a little closer, helps them understand one another without having to speak those words themselves. So
it was
almost
almost
so
my
beautiful.
heroine's journey. It didn't
I know,
feel like a heroine's journey, but it was
almost
my heroine's journey.
We both loved it. Yes,
it was a good line.
I agree. Another line not a line, but another moment I really loved that she said dancing with Chaol was like they had been dancing the waltz together all their lives. They just feel like they're so intertwined and meant to be in that way.
She has this thought within her, quote, and maybe it had taken her this long to realize it, but this man, she wanted that life with him. You know, thinking about her future and her freedom, and it's no longer just her freedom, it's their freedom. And it's like, oh my God, you two are so cute. You're so cute. And then she throws him the freaking birthday party, birthday dinner, you know.
Yeah.
Adorable. And again, this like feeling of being intertwined, maybe soulmates meant to be. The kiss obliterated her. It was like coming home or being born or suddenly finding an entire half of herself that had been missing.
Must have been a good kiss.
I get it. Hey, the first time my husband and I kissed, I remembered being like, wow, yeah, this is what a kiss is supposed to be. So I just loved all these little moments. And again, I'm so nervous. Now to see what happens. But I loved all of these little like feel like we're supposed to be there together because, and I think I said this in oh my God, what's this first book? Throne of Glass. Jesus. In Throne of Glass that that I liked Dorian and I continue to like Dorian as a character, but I just wasn't connecting Dorian and Celaena. Like that wasn't there for me. I wanted to see her with Chaol, or I wanted to see what that relationship or that friendship could look like. And it just feels right. So.
Concurred.
Yes. But then right there at the end, this time she wouldn't fail. Again, that deep trauma within her of losing Sam, of losing her parents, now having to race against the clock to get to him. This time she wouldn't fail. That would be...
Well, she didn't.
So much.
She did save him. He didn't die.
She saved him.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, we'll get to it. Okay, now, I just wanted to note that there's this time when they're like naked and laying in bed together, and Chaol says, "Does your love for yourself know no bounds?" And she's like, "Absolutely none." I'm like, yeah, love me, some self-love. There's absolutely nothing wrong with like knowing who you are and loving every facet about you. It's not easy to do, but I think there's a lot of power in knowing your worth, and she clearly does. She's like, "Ah, I'm a catch.
Yes.
You should be shouting it from the rooftops. You bagged me."
I giggled through that entire interaction. I loved it. I
Yes.
loved it. Okay. Chaol and Celaena, but from Chaol's POV. Because we've now kind of gone through Celaena's. We have to now go through his. So initially, again, we got to go back to the beginning of the book. Initially, he and Celaena are sort of playing a game. They're hiding their relationship. At first, they were kind of hiding their friendship too,
Mm-hmm.
keeping that line between them. He worries that it could be deadly for them both, could make the king question his loyalty, his position as captain of the guard. He also worries about hurting Dorian. He's very concerned about everybody. Knowing, their feels, at least as friends at this point. But we talked about it earlier just super briefly, but he also really struggled at the beginning of this book with Celaena's position, as the
Mm-hmm.
champion. Like, yes, she earned it and she has to do it, but like he couldn't look at her for a week after her first kill for the king. He really struggled.
Yeah, I mean, and Kale's disposition towards Celaena is described as cold and distant when she comes into the room with that severed head. And even Celaena herself points it out, like, what did they expect her to do when she became the king's
Mm-hmm.
champion? It's almost as if during all the excitement of the competition, they forgot what she's capable of at her core and what she would be asked to do.
Yeah. Like she's supposed to go kill people for the king. Like that's I'm sorry, Dorian and Chaol, but that's why you literally went to Dovir to get her. Like
Yeah. What
that was the point. Now you've fallen in love with her, but that's
do you
she's
think she was
Adderley's
going to do?
assassin. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But, but I mean, he's also still really like grappling with not just Celaena, but himself too. And so I think because as we remember from Throne of Glass, Chaol had never killed anybody. Cain was his first kill. So I think he's just dealing with that in general, both him killing people, Celaena killing people, like this idea of actually killing
Mm.
someone. He thought, quote, he'd kill Cain at the duel, killed him to save her. Part of him didn't regret it. Part of him would do it again in a heartbeat. But the other part still woke him up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat that felt too much like Cain's blood.
Mm. Mm. Ew. Sorry, I'm just processing that feeling. Gross.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. He doesn't really say it, but his scars go quite deep, I think. Like even going back to like him being a kid and stuff.
He's, I don't even know if this is the right word. I was going to say he's an emotional guy. He puts on his
Repressed emotion.
well, yes, but he puts on his mask of captain of guard, right? Does his job. Even if maybe sometimes he shouldn't, but he's working through that. But he puts on his mask and does his job, but he's got a lot going on in that brain. The wheels are constantly a turning. Thinking about killing Cain, thinking about the way he feels about Celaena, thinking about his job, thinking about his friend, thinking about his past. You know, I can't be with Celaena because then it'll fuck up my position as captain of the guard, and then I will have given up my title and had my family abandon me for nothing. Like he's got a lot of feelings. Everything is all very wrapped up for him in, doing the right thing, but what is the right thing
Yeah.
ultimately?
Loyalty. His need to be loyal.
And honorable, but what does
Mm-hmm.
that honor and loyalty truly look like? And I think it begins to shift. We see that, as we hit halfway through the book, but I think he still has to really come to terms with it. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, struggles with Celaena a little bit there at the start, but he still worries about her. He's still worried about her when she goes out on her missions. He almost went to see if she was okay on one of them. Took her a while to come back, and he was like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna see where she's at. And even when she comes to his office after killing Davis, he is utterly panicked at the thought that
Mm-hmm.
Celaena was hurt. that blood was all hers. She's sick. What has happened? And then he remembers, okay, she said Gloriella. They're helping her. He's holding Celaena's hair as she vomits. He's sitting by her side when she finally sleeps. And it just reminds me again of Rhys and Feyre
Hmm.
and of
Yeah.
their, connection to each other, and Rhys's willingness to be by her side, even if maybe she didn't want it, even in those, harder moments. He was still there, and Chaol is there.
Yeah, he even says, when you go away, I have no idea what's happening to you. I don't know if you're in a gutter or dead. He's not able to relax when she's gone. And then she comes back because, he's worried about her the entire time. And he thinks that he doesn't like it when she leaves or leaves him alone and doesn't keep him updated. He sure does think an awful lot about her.
They need cell phones. Because, how is she supposed to update you, babe? How's she supposed to keep you in the
Write
loop?
you a letter that gets there days after she returns.
Right. She's got to send it before she even leaves. She just gives it to Philippa. Hey, can you pass this off to Chaol in 5 to 7 business days, please?
There you
Uh, worries about her. Also thinks a lot about her. He wanted to pin Celaena to the couch after she brushed his hair and his cheek. Okay, do it. Whatever. But he can't cross the line. Can't cross the fucking line. There's not a real line, Chaol. You're creating the line. Because he's honorable to a fault, right? And that's what we were just saying. His loyalty and his honor are good and not at the same time. Quote, Dorian and the king were where his loyalty lay. Without his loyalty, he was no one. Without it, he'd given up his family, his title, for nothing. So I said, will he blindly follow the king? Well, then a little bit later in the book, he goes, perhaps my duties aren't what I expected them to be. And again, I think time will continue to tell, but it's trending toward no, that he won't blindly follow the king. I think he still wants to believe that the king is good? Question mark? Or good enough?
Those rose-colored glasses are thick.
Yes, they're thinning, but they're still there because he didn't, Nehemia, all that's going that shit. But with the thinning of the rose-colored glasses, with the questioning of where and how deep are his honor and loyalty, he thinks this. I'll go with you. He would go with Celaena. He would leave it all behind. And I teared up a little bit when he said that, because I did not expect those words to come from him. Yeah. I'll go with you. I would be the greatest fool in the world to let you go. And then later he thinks that he would turn his sword on himself before he would ever kill her if the king ordered her to do it. But then he still hides what's going on with Nehemia from Celaena. We haven't broken through our honor and loyalty to the king yet, but we're working on it. Is it too little too late? I hope not.
Yeah.
But we shall see. And I really hope not, because this motherfucking man is thinking about their future and about her being his wife. I was like, whoa. You fall hard and fast in this book. Dorian does it. Chaol does it. Okay. But then when he's captured and still all he can think of is her, when he realizes that that's the she that they're speaking about. Quote, you hurt her and I'll rip you apart with my bare hands. Well, I thought we didn't want to kill anybody, Chaol. I thought we couldn't handle that. And then he goes, you so much as touch her and I'll gut you. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a different perspective now. We'll kill for Celaena. We don't want to kill for anybody else, but we'll kill for Celaena.
Celaena brings out this rageful aspect of him, and Chaol brings out a peaceful part of Celaena.
Very yin and
she's
yang.
like, oh, you remind me of the world ought to be, what the world can be. Meanwhile, he's like, ah.
I'm gonna rip the world apart so that you can be my wife and we can have kids and they'll drive me
Yes.
crazy, but I'm gonna love them. Like, oh my gosh. I think that's what my husband did though, kind of when we met. He was very much like he would have told me he loved me in 5 seconds. He didn't. He waited. But I
Yeah.
think he was same thing, like thinking, yeah, this is the life I want. This is what I envision. So we shall see.
Mm.
Now, before we leave Chaol and Celaena for now, I'm just gonna say it again. This is such a big question for me, and it could go in the question section. But what is going to happen?
Mhm.
Celaena has now found Nehemia dead. And Chaol knew to an extent that something was happening with her, right? Her life was being threatened. The king was going to question her. And now Celaena finds her dead in her room. But also, I just want to say this, and I forgot this until just now. I don't think that this is the case, but Celena's running through the castle, right? She
Mhm.
sees Dorian, she sees a few guards, she's covered in blood from killing all of the people to get to
Mhm.
Chaol. Then she comes into Nehemia's room and she's covered in blood, and Nehemia's dead.
Oh, like she'd be blamed.
Yeah.
Oh.
I momentarily had that thought. I was like, ooh, I really hope that that's not something that's going to happen now, that they're going to try and turn that as a way to now have Celaena, out of the picture.
I can't wait for you to read the next chapter.
There's a lot of questions going on. Like, yeah, yeah. I need to turn the
Yeah.
page.
You girl, you ready? You ready? You
I
should read that
am
chapter
ready.
today.
The Kindle is primed and ready. It's charged and plugged in. We're ready to know what happens. And I'm
Mhm.
ready to give y'all the summary next week.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah.
Back to Chaol.
Random Chaol. Random Chaol. He really also dislikes Roland. Like, knocked him out when they were kids because, well, he slept with the girl that Chaol loved. So
Mm.
that's super unfortunate. But
Mhm.
he doesn't like Roland. Slimy guy. We're going to talk more about him. Um, he's maybe a little OCD, a little bit Chaol, which I think is not
Mm.
shocking with his position. He likes to arrange his books in alphabetical order. He's pretty, neat and tidy.
Yeah, his room is described as fairly simple, not ornate, structured. Someone who does not need or desire status for validation, which is feeling very opposite of Celaena, who is like,
Yes.
more! Give me more!
Yes. Which again, if she came from money in her
Mm,
past, that could be part of that. Then not well, and I was gonna say then not having it. She like Arab and Hamill, they have it's not like they were living in squalor, from my
no,
understanding, but it
no.
wasn't hers. It was his. That was all Arab and Hamill's. She was just there to, I guess, enjoy the pleasures of it for the time being while she was training.
Yeah.
So that could be, for her to like Chaol left it behind. He chose that where Celaena didn't. It may
Right.
have been ripped from her if that's what her I'm taking a lot of liberties. I'm assuming that she comes from money and nobility and whatever. So,
Mhm.
but I mean she played the pianoforte, she knows how to read. She's had access to these things at some point in her life.
Yeah, I think that's all fair.
Um, and then the last little thing I had about Chaol is we know that he abdicated his title, but we have now been told that he actually was disowned. His father completely disowned him for abdicating said title,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. And then I guess kind of, I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can understand then his perspective of this need to do my job, to be the captain of the guard, to serve the king that I gave up my life to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel
Um,
that he's complex, and I think that's also what makes him a fun character to read about.
yes, definitely. Definitely. And I think too, that's something I'm appreciating about Dorian, who we're going to move into next in this
Mm-hmm.
book, is we got a little bit of that complexity in Throne of Glass. A little bit of kind of his, wanting to be different than his father. But I feel like now with sort of his magic emerging, that we're getting more of that. I'm getting a little bit deeper look into Dorian. I'd like some more still.
Mm.
Um, but I think we start with Dorian and Celaena. That relationship has ended, but the feels are still there. And especially at the start of the book, when he is grappling with Celaena's position, he goes, he couldn't help but wondering if he'd ever meant anything to Celaena at all. He's really convincing himself or trying to convince himself that their relationship was faked. It was all just for her to earn this position and be where she is now and doing what she does for his father. Like he's really struggling with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It feels like he doesn't know Celaena anymore, or at least he doesn't think he does, to the point that he wonders if he ever actually meant anything to her. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd say she's probably doing a good job at masking because he does mean
Yeah.
something to her, just not in the I want to jump your bones kind of way.
And I think too, and you can weigh in on this, but like when she comes in from her latest assignment at the start of this book and she's in her assassin's clothes, pants and a tunic, he's thinking, wow, I miss seeing her in these pretty dresses. I think that he really liked the idea of Celaena and of her as a lover, right? Different than anybody he'd ever known. But I don't know that he likes the idea of who she really is. And she
Mm.
is the assassin. She is the girl who wears the pretty dresses. She's all of these pieces. And I think Chaol appreciates all of those pieces in a way that Dorian can't, or at least isn't.
I think that Dorian and Chaol both really love different versions of Celaena, and neither of those two men really know who they are.
Well, and they don't really know who she is either. I mean, they do, but they don't because there's pieces of her that she ain't willing to share. So,
Yeah,
does
like
anybody know
randomly she'll be like,
anybody?
right, she'll be like, "Oh yeah, I infiltrated that random merchant's mansion. Oh yeah, I had an
Right. I
Assyrian
stole that
horse."
horse. Yeah.
They're like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, they don't really know all of her, and they don't really know themselves that well. I mean, Dorian is literally going through a I don't not a midlife an early life crisis. What the fuck? I have magic?
Quarter life
Like
crisis.
they they've got a lot to discover about each other. But I think they love different versions of each other. And yeah, I think you're right. He liked the idea of her in that time and space.
For sure.
Yeah.
Still uses the
Yeah.
word love when he's thinking about her at the beginning of the book.
Mm-hmm.
These boys fall
Mm-hmm.
hard and fast for Miss Celaena.
Yes, and then they make it super awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help. I mean, I can appreciate that, like, I guess he said this. But when he looks at Dor or when Dorian looks at Celaena and he goes, "Do you want me to fight for you? Is that it? Is that what you want me to do?" And she's like, "No, no."
Also, if you have to ask if you should fight for someone, you either should have done it already or you don't need to.
And
You know?
that's the thing. Like, if you really felt like that's what you wanted and should have done, Dorian, like you maybe could have done it a couple of months ago
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of now when you see her and Chaol getting closer and you're just jealous.
Yeah. That part. That part. And Celaena put him in his place, saying, I think you're just used to getting what you want, who you want. Well, perhaps.
Yep. I think that's pretty on the nose. He slowly starts to like he's trying to let Celaena go in the first couple of chapters. Quote, he had better, more important things to worry about than what Celaena felt for his friend. Does make his temper flare up though. Because then he asks, how long have you been yearning for him? Was what he really, or he thinks, how long have you been yearning for him? That's what he really wanted to ask. Damn
Mm.
him for caring. Damn him for every moment he'd spent with her. Okay, so now we're going through the stages of grief.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what's happening here. Then we move through the rage a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And we get, quote, so Dorian closed his eyes and took another long breath. And when he opened his eyes, he had let her go. And it like he says that, it's not quite happening. It takes a little bit longer. But I don't think I expected this. I think I expected him to fight for her a little bit
Mm.
longer, a little bit harder. Um, he saw the way that Chaol and Celaena looked at each other. And rather than being upset, he kind of understands, like, okay, I need to move on, especially when he hears the poem and the song. That I think was a really big moment for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but I still kind of expected that love triangle to cause a little bit more of a rift between Dorian and Chaol. Like I kind of expected that to be a plot point, and perhaps it still
I mean, they
could
hadn't
be.
really had it out, the two of them.
No, and I think that has to happen. I really, really do. But I guess I just anticipated the grief that Dorian is going through of losing Celaena's love. I expected that to not maybe happen quite as quickly as it is. I do think
Hmm.
that conversation or sparring match or whatever between Dorian and Chaol has to happen, and maybe even a conversation probably between Celaena and Dorian. But it's just all kind of happening in a way that I didn't quite expect it to. But he kind of does have some other stuff to worry about right now. So it's probably easier to be like, I'm good, Celaena. See you later. I've got to fucking think about magic.
Yeah. I mean, he says he would move on because he would not be like the ancient kings and keep her for himself. Very mature line of thought, I
Yes.
think. And then Dorian says he watches them dance, and Nehemia reminds him that she and Dorian will always stand apart, have responsibilities that others will never understand nor want. She's like, come on, Dorian. It's not your
Mm.
path. Come with me.
I would have loved
Which
to have
is
seen
interesting when you think about
their friendship.
Nehemia and Elena's conversation, where Nehemia is like, the prince isn't ready. Is she purposefully keeping them apart too?
I was sad for a multitude of reasons for Nehemia to die. But I was really curious. I wanted to see kind of what her and Dorian's friendship maybe could have blossomed
Mm-hmm.
into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to say too how much, again, that I appreciate, while I expected the blow up a little bit more of the Dorian and Chaol and Celaena, I appreciate the maturity, because I think I'm a little scarred from another series with a little Tam Tam
Yeah. Yeah. And the
being
lack of
the
it.
person who would keep him to herself, or keep her
Yeah.
to himself. So I think I anticipated that, because I have the anxiety that, well, she's mine. I had her first. She
Yeah.
can't change her
Yep.
mind. She can't love somebody else. So
Yeah.
yeah. Should we talk about
Um,
Dorian and his magic?
mm-hmm. Let's
I
do it.
wrote down this quote. He said he was plagued with magic. Oof, what a way to think about it. I feel like in Akatar, like, oh, magic, it's a good thing. What are your powers? Here, magic is bad right now. So this
Yeah. Feels
idea of
different.
plagued, I just feel so bad for him. And then he's having these nightmares about teeth and shadows and glinting daggers. And I wonder, this moment, is this his power awakening, or is this his father and Parrington trying to kind of control him? He's having these very
Mm.
similar dreams. And so I'm curious then too, like, is
Yeah.
it good magic with him? Is it bad? Is what is it play? within Dorian's
Yeah.
mind and
He
soul.
doesn't mention headaches though. And we don't see
No.
black eyes or a black ring.
But
So that
Caltaine didn't
tells
have a black
me
ring either.
she had black eyes.
Eventually, yes.
So I don't know. I
Because like
don't know.
Roland doesn't have black eyes, but he has a ring now. I'm curious how long this power takes to sort of devour your soul, devour your eye color. But
Good point. Good point.
Nehemia, that moment where they're standing by the door and she's being a little cryptic. Quote, "You have power in you, Prince, more power than you realize. It sleeps in here." She taps his heart. "When the time comes, when it awakens, do not be afraid. When it is time, I will help you." As Nehemia traces a symbol on his chest, and I said a word mark, question mark, I'm sure. And then I went, he totally has magic. Because at that point, we hadn't seen the magic yet. And I'm so sad, though, that Nehemia isn't around for him to talk to at the very least. Because she at least was kind of giving him, cryptic hints of like, I see what's within you, where he doesn't feel like he can have this conversation with anyone else. Didn't really feel like he could have it with Nehemia either,
Yeah.
but felt more inclined to talk to her about it than he can with anybody else.
I know. Or he says something ancient and slumbering opened an eye. Like something ancient and slumbering and in him opened an eye. And it makes me wonder, is the word mark she put on him some kind of like an awakening mark? Because she clearly has some other intentions behind her involvement with him after reading that passage with Elena. So, did she wake up the magic in him? Is the word mark a spell that can't be touched by the king's power because it's so ancient? So she put a word mark on him that awakens the magic that was repressed by whatever represses magic. And so it counteracts that.
Too bad we don't have Nehemia to tell us. Bring her back. Bring her back to life. Oh, well, whether she wakes up that magic or he wakes up that magic or something in the world wakes up that magic, he goes and he punches a brick wall and cracks it at spider webs and it causes a window to burst. And then he looks around and there's no glass where he was standing. And I was like, okay, so maybe some like super strength use of like, earth. Then it's cold everywhere he goes and he is leaving like a frost line in his bed. Okay, so maybe like water. And then he's in the library and all of the wind pushes the books off the library shelves. And I said, air, elemental magic, that seems pretty old and deep.
Agreed. I think that's all fair. Well, Dorian's magic is pretty interesting. I wrote down just a section for Dorian the Prince. To start, I guess, with his brother, his awful brother, who's demanding and entitled and hates animals. If you hate animals, it's like a big red flag, okay?
I clocked that too. I was like, that's a no-no. You're icky.
Big red flag. And I see that you wrote some stuff down about Holland too, so I'll let you go first to tag in here.
I just wrote down more about that too, like his entitlement, his demand. Like this kid is spoiled. He's got a whole carnival. His mama also
A
gifted
whole
him
fucking carnival.
I know. And they're like, it's a small carnival. It's not that big. And I'm like, it's a whole ass carnival. Okay. But like at another time, he was gifted 4 white ponies and a tiny golden carriage to drive around, and he destroyed his mom's garden.
It makes me think of Dudley Dursley. Dudley Dursley.
Yes. Mama's boy. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and he's described as pale and rotund and blessed with a head full of ebony curls, and the pale and rotund again. It's very much giving. Yes, Dudley Dursley is a good visual in my head,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Colin is home. He's home from boarding school.
Ugh. Now, so clearly Dorian has been brought up privileged, and yet despite that upbringing and privilege, one of his most impressive movements, I think, is choosing to let Celaena go, like we talked about. He could have demanded, manipulated, resented, but instead he chooses that harder path. And it's one of those moments where he starts to become more than just a charming prince and begins to grow into the man that I think he will hopefully eventually be. We see so many moments of him being what I would say would be a much better leader than what his land has right now. And Holland
Oh, we
is
hope
the
so.
the epitome of his father. So, yes, I saw you crossing your fingers. I'll cross my fingers too. Speaking of
I think
familial
Dorian's good.
lines, yeah, I know Dorian does feel good. But speaking of family and Havillards, we get Roland. Okay. You
Mhm.
already said he's described as the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. Not handsome, a ruggish sort of player. He has bluish green eyes and I would describe him as like a haughty, sort of entitled personality.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Entitled, this quote, I didn't have anywhere else to really put it, but that's
Yeah.
you said entitled, and I was like, he looks at Dorian and he goes, "We're Havilliards, cousin. We'll always have enemies that need dispatching." Like again, it's just
We'll
okay.
always have people we need to kill. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Selena says he got a little too close. And he's got, sorry, I can't read my writing. He's got, that is spelled so wrong. He's got little to lose and a lot to gain, which makes people dangerous. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. That's, we could write that on a billboard. Red flag 101. Little to lose, lot to gain. Watch
Yeah.
out.
And she's like, he's off. She wants to kill him. She's like, she thinks
Hmm.
again. This is how I'd kill him.
These
This is what I
are
would
my
do to him.
thoughts. Yep. Yep.
And that's little to lose, a lot to gain. You know, he has a new position on the King's Council and he is playing the game. He is backing the king and Duke Parrington. But when Dorian says no, then he's suddenly on Dorian's side.
Hmm.
But even if he pretends to be on Dorian's side, he now has his own black ring. Dorian clocks that at one of those latest council meetings that, oh, look, he's got an obsidian ring like my dad and Duke Parrington. How did he get so close to them so fast?
Yep.
And this quote from Caltaine, again, she's just dropping little nuggets. None of us can be trusted, especially not Roland. The things I've
Hmm.
heard about him are enough to turn even your stomach, I bet. And she's telling this to Celaena, who is already thinking
Mm.
Roland's not a good guy.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So, Roland
Yeah.
is, he'll continue to be an interesting character. And he's like
Yeah.
following Dorian. Well, I saw you leave the castle and go to the carnival.
Hmm. What were you actually doing? Or is he following him?
I think he's keeping tabs on him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
From whom do we think?
Hmm. That's a perfect segue into talking about the king.
Yeah.
So we notice he still has his obsidian ring on, of course. He's not going to take that off, but we somebody clocks it, Dorian maybe. Chaol makes this interesting remark that the king is a massive man and that he's surprised by the king's size for quote unquote some reason. And I said, AKA dark magic. Cain drinking in the souls of the other champions.
Mm-hmm.
We wondered where the king went on his little excursion in Throne of Glass. Perhaps he's taken in people's souls, but he's a massive man. So I don't know if he'd been described that way before, or at least I hadn't noticed it until Chaol
Same.
really, really mentioned it.
But we know Cain was described as getting more massive and massive.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then Chaol also has this moment where he says there was something in his eyes that sent a chill down Chaol's spine and made him realize why so many foreign rulers had offered him their crowns instead of facing him in battle. Again, we talk about the
Hmm.
eyes, but this idea of foreign rulers just giving up, offering their crowns instead of facing him in battle. And we continue to think about like he conquered this continent in just 10 years. How
Yeah.
is that happening? Why are people so afraid of him? How does he have so much power?
Hmm. Yeah. So I those black rings be sus.
Got to know more about what those are from and who gave them to him and what they mean and their power and so many questions. Um, Him killing Reina, the harpist, and her violinist, really made my stomach hurt. I figured it was probably coming because he can't let them live. He puts
No,
on a
no.
show. Oh, it's a great song. Clap, 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 clap. But, drags them off, beheads them. That can't be done without consequence. But it just still it made my stomach churn. And
Yeah.
I mean, I assume he killed Nehemia. I don't know yet. Somebody killed Nehemia. If he didn't, he was going to. I that had to have been coming. It had to have been coming. I hate it, but it just
Yeah.
all signs point to, I mean, because he can't have her there and he can't send her home.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But, Celaena says something. She says there was never absolute good or absolute evil in anyone, the king being the exception. She, she straight up is like, he's absolute evil. Um, I think that is, there's some truth within the beginning of that talks about all of us and the choices we have to make to be better, do better, and that we can choose to be good. So is the king choosing to be evil? Is he just innately evil? He's
I
a
need
bad
a
guy.
I need a backstory from about 10 years ago. I need a book from 10 years
Yeah.
ago that tells me how we got to this point. Because at one point in time, Heviliards and Galathiniuses, they were joined in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
did we end up at this point? How did we end up with the king as who he is?
Yeah.
I think he chose evil. I think somebody presented him with an
Evil.
opportunity and he chose evil.
Mm. Mm. Intriguing. Intriguing. Well, next up we have our dear Nehemia, who is extremely preoccupied through most of this book, and understandably so, by the capturing and killing of more and more of her people. And she says, when does gathering information become a stalemate? When do we act? She wants to save her country. She's extremely brave and bold. She puts herself continuously in danger for the betterment of her people. She, to me, is the reflection of like a really true leader. And she tells Celaena, she's like, there's nothing complicated about this. It's the difference between right and wrong. And, or sorry, that she didn't say it to Celaena. Well, she kind of says it to Celaena, but those exact lines were given to Dorian. And that is
Mm,
what influences him about the slave camps in Calicut and to vote against it. I think that's why the king wanted her dead.
mm.
Oh, you're influencing Dorian. No, no, no. We must stop this. And that big, big word, coward. Quite the powerful word.
Mm.
And those her last words. Her last words, she
Mhm.
calls Celaena a coward.
It's a tough end.
Yeah.
If we think Celaena holds a lot of guilt in terms of her parents and Sam, she's going to hold a lot of guilt for Nehemia.
Mm-hmm. A lot. I would agree with that. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about Mr. Archer, but we know that he's a courtesan, someone Celaena had a childhood crush on, who's described as joyful and pleasant. And at 17, women were fighting over his virginity. Ugh, okay. And she describes him as just as much of a weapon, a beautiful, deadly weapon. And he says to her, I'd like to do a lot of things with you. Let's just recall that they met when she was 13, and he alludes to some very strange comments about her having her proclivities back in the day and how she's filled out. And I just thought, you're creepy as fuck. I mean, granted, you were a 17-year-old who was having your virginity taken. You've been being trained up. So,
Yeah.
you know, how old were you when you were looking at 13-year-old Celaena? Thinking those things. If all those thoughts were also pushed onto you to see the world through that lens, is it that gross? If that's the lens of life you're forced to look through, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'm like, it's weird now.
Yeah. Yeah.
He weirded me out.
I found it interesting, kind of the parallels, though, of him and Celaena. Him being an orphan, 12 years old, being taken in by Lady Clarice, who's basically the Arabin Hamel of prostitution, for Rifthold. And he is repaying his debt to her, as Celaena was having to do to Arabin. So just very interesting to kind of see the parallels of their lives and how potentially different, I guess it could have been if maybe Arabin had found him and Clarice had found her, what their lives could have turned into and how similar yet different they are. I didn't expect him to be helping lead the rebels. I knew that there was more going on there.
He's a liar.
Yes. And I would love to continue to get a little bit more background on that, just because was he truly scared of Celaena then when she came to him and said hey, I'll either kill you or leave? I feel like we're getting he's playing two very different parts, I guess, is the way that I will say that. The part of him as a courtesan, and then the part of him as this rebel leader. And the way that Celaena kind of even notices that he sort of flips on his head. Like, she's like, whoa, now I am not attracted to you, in this light. So super just to see more about that. I didn't know where else to put this person, but when we learn about Archer, we learn about her, and it's a character drop, but I feel like it's probably something that's going to come up again eventually. Lysandra, I'm assuming is how we say her name. We learn that she's also a courtesan whom Celaena has had a, quote, long and violent history with. And Celaena says that she will kill her if they ever meet again. And I feel like that reunion is potentially bound to happen. I just felt like dropping her in kind of
very specific name, right?
Yes. Getting that name and just the super quick, they've got a long and violent history. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to mark her down and try to remember that name as somebody who will probably come back.
Yeah. Well, speaking of names, we're going to jump, skip, hop over to what did click for us, or what are we going to watch for? And mine first one. Wow, word hard, sentence weird. My first one is about Mort, who is laughing at Celaena's name. Hysterically finds it funny that her name is Celaena Sardothien. Okay. That's odd. Why, Mort? If you just never heard of that type of a name before, it's strange. Then next question, Keltane. She says, something is coming and I am to greet it. Yeah, it feels very Elaine coded in how they just drop random ass things that mean something obvious later. And then, why had Gavin picked this site to be his castle? Had there been something there before? Refers to a staircase in the catacombs that looks older than the stone castle itself. That made me think, was there something on this land before the stone castle was even built?
Mm-hmm.
How old is this land? I have questions. What are your questions?
Always questions. We keep like briefly touching on Erewhon, the demon king or whatever, the evil guy.
Hmm.
And I need to know what that melting person thing was that Celaena encountered in the in-between during her
Yeah.
battle with Cain. And I just can't stop thinking about that army and that person. And I'm wondering, like, what is this in between that she was in? Was this a whole other world? Was this kind of this, like, um, oh my God, what's that called? Oh my God. Before you go to heaven, there's a thing that they
Limbo.
say. Thank
Pa,
you.
pa, 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 pa. It starts with a peep.
Yeah, starts with a P. But anyway, limbo. Yeah, I'm wondering if there are people stuck in this. I know it's on the tip of my tongue.
No. Say poltergeist. I'm like, no, stop. No, already wrong.
Poltergeist live.
Wow. We are going to hate ourselves here in a second. One of
Probably.
the top Google searches. What's between purgatory?
Purgatory. Thank you. Purgatory. I feel like she was in like this purgatory almost between worlds. And then we keep like mentioning Erewhon. And for some reason, I'm like getting the vibe that maybe that's him stuck in this plane, like trying to come back. I don't know why
Hmm.
that is the vibe that I'm getting, but I really want to know who that melting person was and who this army
Hmm.
was that she
Hmm.
saw. Archer asks Celaena if Arabin knows if she's back, and I think I've questioned this a couple of times, but does he know that she's back? You would think he probably does. So when will we meet the Assassin King? When will we meet
Hmm.
this man? I feel like that's bound to happen as well. Are word marks magic or are they separate from magic? Like I'm still really trying to understand that. I really wish that Nehemia had had the time to teach Celaena and then therefore teach me. But I'm just trying to figure out like these sort of classifications of magic levels. The
Feels
magic
like
that's no longer
above magic.
here. It does. Like there's like ancient spells and magic and word marks, and then like the current magic is down here. Like I'm
Mm.
just trying to really wrap my head around like what the word marks are. So I'm sure others are questioning that too. Now, here's my theory.
Hmm.
Here's my question, and here's my theory.
Hmm.
Who is Aelin Galathynius? Who? We know she's an heir, but who is she? Is she alive? The King of Adarlan killed off the Galathynius line 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Okay. Celaena's family was killed 10 years ago. We know she has another name, a different name, and a past that she's not willing to talk about and hide. Is she a Galathynius? Is she Aelin? Because
Mm.
she's very convinced, like, that can't be Aelin. That's not a real person. So is she related to Aelin and knows that she's dead? Or is she Aelin? And then therefore knows that she is not dead and not trying to reclaim her place in Terrace.
Mm.
So those are my questions and my thoughts.
And your theories. If it makes you feel any better, when I first read this book, about this point in the series, I had the same prediction. I was thinking the same exact thing the first time I read this. I was like, all signs point to
Yes. And the 10
right there.
years thing, especially when
The
she's
10
like, oh, it's been
years, I
10
had a different
years.
name. My
Yeah.
parents were killed in my bed.
It's all giving
I have a royal kind
Aelin.
of upbringing because I have access to a pianoforte and literature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is that's what I'm getting.
Yeah. Elena, Selena. Where'd she come up with that name? It all feels very direct. And in the way that Elena talks about her past, knowing things about her, also
Mm-hmm.
feels very intentional. Mort laughing at her name.
Laughing at her name. Yeah.
And when he has a download about her past and her history and her parents, and then goes, "What's your name?" Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. And I think it's fair for readers to make that connection at this point because we've been given enough clues to think it's
Yeah.
got to be it. Unless Aelin has a sister.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Unless they're just family, like,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's giving Lily and Celaena, Ellen, Tia, are Aelin.
that's where
All of the
I'm going
names.
to. Definitely.
So,
Well, as we get into Celena's heroine journey, I think what struck me the most about these chapters was a combination of what are, I guess, two seemingly separate moments. I had a lot of choices to make for my heroine's journey this week, y'all. I was going between 5 things, and I chose these two, which I could see how you wouldn't think they'd connect. But one is Celena's fury at being perceived as weak. And then the other is her grief over not being able to go to the library any longer because it doesn't feel like a safe space. On the surface, while they might not appear connected, the more I sat with them, the more I realized that they're both rooted in the same fear, which is the fear of vulnerability. And when she thinks that someone believing she needed protection made her want to shatter bones, that's actually, I understood that reaction probably more than I should have. I grew up being told to toughen up, to be strong, to push through. My dad often treated me and called me the son that he never had. Read into that what you wish. But it taught me a lot of things, taught me resilience. It also left me deeply uncomfortable with the idea of appearing incapable or needing help. And like Celaena, there are times that I would rather prove I can handle it than admit something actually hurts. But then we see her mourning the loss of this library, a place where she once loved, and now it feels dangerous because of what happened there with that shadowy figure. And isn't that such a universal experience? A lot of us probably have a place, a relationship, a dream, or even a version of ourselves that was altered by something negative, maybe by pain. And of course, I'm going to bring in Taylor Swift because why wouldn't I? So there's a Taylor Swift lyric that says, "I'm mad as hell because I loved this place." And I think that resonates very deeply. There's anger that comes from love. There's grief that comes from what it once meant to us. And sometimes that loss is so profound that another lyric felt very true. I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Because home isn't always necessarily a physical place either. Sometimes it's a feeling. And trauma has a way of making us strangers to a place that once felt like home, once felt safe. And Celaena reminds us that strength isn't just pretending something didn't affect us. It's not just saying, "Oh, I'm not weak," but instead allowing ourselves to acknowledge that, yeah, I am hurt. This is a vulnerable moment for me. And there is beauty in allowing yourself to be changed by something, to choose to move forward in despite it, to be brave and to move through the storm.
yeah, we read half a book. There's so many things we could touch on. But for some reason, this really just like small, probably insignificant moment really hit me this week. Quote, she inclined her head toward the carriage that waited outside the castle doors. Good. She'd threatened to flay the driver and footmen alive if they were late. And she's thinking this while she's in this gorgeous beaded dress, taking her friend and crush out for his birthday. Those are kind of, very opposite things, if you will. And in these chapters, I think what really stood out to me that we've seen in both the 1.5 books that we've known Celaena is that Celena's constant, it's not, well, What stood out to me most wasn't just Celaena's constant strength, but the way that she chooses how that strength is seen. So from the very beginning, she's very aware of that image she presents, right? She's the lethal assassin, the girl who threatens, who smirks, who's always one step ahead, even in as something as small as arriving somewhere on time. She makes sure that she's perceived exactly how she wants to be. She's controlled, untouchable. But underneath that, there is more to her. Because the more we see of Celaena, the more it becomes clear that that unwavering strength isn't the whole truth of who she is, right? It's a version, a shield, a role that she knows how to play. And I think that that's something that a lot of us can probably relate to. There are versions of ourselves that we put forward to the world: the capable one, the unbothered one, the one who has it all handled and all together. But it's not necessarily fake, but it's not the full truth either, is it, guys?
Mm.
Because it feels safer sometimes than letting somebody see the whole picture, letting them see what's behind that. Celaena begins to show us and the people around her that a woman's strength isn't just in maintaining that image, it's in what happens when it starts to slip, or in those quiet moments, in those contradictions, in the parts of yourself that maybe you can't fully hide from the people around you and from yourself. Her journey isn't just about survival or winning anymore at this point. It's also about figuring out who she is when she's not performing for someone else,
Mm.
and actually opening up for others to see that version of her too. And I think maybe that's the real challenge. It's not becoming someone stronger, easier to love, perfectly put together, but it's actually allowing yourself to be fully seen as you already are.
I know you want to keep going. I know you want to turn the page, but we got to close the book on this one.
Yeah, because every epic needs a motherfucking cliffhanger, right? So I guess let's savor the suspense.
But
I'm turning the
remember,
page as soon as I close this.
I know, right? Like, share, subscribe, write a review.
And of course, before you remove your bookmark to prepare for next week, we are diving into Crown of Midnight, chapters 30 to the end, so the rest of the book.
Part two. Remember that whether you're conquering your own kingdom or just cozying up with a good book, you are the main character of your own epic tale.
Okay, queens, for me and for you, for real now, put the book down, hold that crown high, and we will catch you on the next page.